He was used to being overlooked. As a black waiter working the morning shift at a quiet cafe on the edge of town, people rarely saw him beyond the tray he carried or the smile he wore. But that day, something was different. A woman in a wheelchair rolled in slowly, alone, quiet, her eyes scanning the room like she was looking for someone. When she saw him, she nodded, not in a dismissive way, but with purpose, like she already knew who he was. He brought her water, took her order, and was about to walk away when she stopped him. "Wait," she said softly, reaching into her worn bag. She pulled out an old newspaper clipping, yellowed, folded, and clearly handled too many times. Without a word, she handed it to him. He took it, confused, and opened it carefully. His hands trembled slightly as he read the headline. His name was there, not just mentioned, but bolded. He hadn't seen that name in years. Not since the accident, not since the story was buried. He looked back at the woman, but her expression gave nothing away. Just calm, almost too calm. "You don't remember me, do you?" she asked, voice quiet but steady. His throat tightened. The cafe around them faded into the background. Questions swirled in his mind. Why now? Why her? And what did she know about that day, the one he'd tried so hard to forget? What she said next would change everything. He held the clipping like it was a ghost from the past. The headline was simple, but the story underneath it wasn't. It was about a crash, one that had happened 10 years ago, just outside the city. He remembered it clearly, though he tried not to. A rainy night, a screaming engine, and the sharp crunch of metal. He was just a teenager then, walking home from a part-time job. He'd pulled someone from the wreckage before the ambulance arrived. No one ever knew his name, until, apparently, someone did. "I was there," the woman said, watching his face closely. "That night, you saved a little girl." Her voice wavered slightly. "That girl was my daughter." His heart dropped. He remembered the child, barely conscious, covered in blood, her tiny hand clutching his shirt as he carried her from the burning car. He remembered the sirens, the chaos, and how he vanished before anyone could question him. Back then, he was scared. A young black teen in the wrong place, afraid of what people might assume. He looked at the woman again, her eyes glassy but determined. Why now? Why come after so many years with this? And what did she want from him? Around them, the cafe buzzed with quiet conversations and clinking cups, but their table felt like it existed in a different world. He placed the clipping on the table, staring at it like it might explain everything. But deep down, he knew, this was just the beginning. He leaned in closer, trying to read between the lines, of her face, of the article, of the silence that now felt louder than the chatter around them. "Why are you here?" he finally asked. It wasn't rude, just honest. There was too much weight in her words to ignore, and something told him this wasn't just a thank you visit. She looked down for a second, fingers tracing the edge of her coffee cup. "Because someone else was in that car," she said, "and they never made it out." That hit hard. He remembered the flames, the way the backseat was jammed. He'd only had time to grab the child before the fire spread. He'd lived with the guilt ever since. But now there was something else in her tone, a layer of accusation, or maybe regret. "I never knew your name until a few months ago," she continued. "The article was printed by mistake. A journalist found it while writing a story on forgotten heroes. They found your name in an old witness statement. That's how I found you." She paused, her eyes locking onto his. "But there's more. My daughter," she started asking questions, and what she remembered, it didn't match what we were told. His stomach turned. "What do you mean?" The woman hesitated, like she was afraid to say it out loud. "She says someone was following our car that night. And the crash, it wasn't just an accident." The room spun slightly. Something deeper was hiding in this story. The air felt heavier now. He looked at the woman, his thoughts racing. Someone had been following them. That night had haunted him for years, but he'd always believed it was just a tragic accident. Now that belief was unraveling right in front of him. "She remembered headlights behind us," the woman said quietly. "Too close. like they were trying to push us. And after the crash, she said someone came up to the car before you did and walked away. His skin prickled. That didn't fit anything he remembered, or had he blocked it out? The woman pulled something else from her bag, a photo. It was grainy and faded, but it showed a man standing near the wreckage in the shadows. The police never looked into it. They said it was probably a bystander who ran when the fire broke out. She looked up. But I think whoever it was didn't want us to survive. He stared at the photo, a chill running down his spine. The outline of the man looked strangely familiar, but he couldn't place it. His mind darted back to the people he knew back then, the streets he used to walk, the faces he tried to forget. And now, she added, my daughter's been getting strange calls. No caller ID, just silence, every time. He didn't say a word. He just stood up slowly, scanning the cafe. Something felt off, like they were being watched. He had to know who that man was, before it was too late. He moved toward the cafe window, heart pounding, eyes scanning every car parked along the street. Nothing looked out of place, but that didn't ease the growing knot in his chest. The woman remained at the table, her hands wrapped tightly around her cup like it was the only thing grounding her. Then she said something that made him freeze. There's something else. A name my daughter remembered hearing that night. One word. It didn't mean anything to her, but I think you'll recognize it. She reached into her purse again, this time pulling out a slip of paper. On it, just one word, written in a child's handwriting. Asterisk, asterisk, Redstone. Asterisk, asterisk. The moment he saw it, he felt like the floor gave out from under him. Redstone wasn't a name, it was a place. A storage facility on the outskirts of town, abandoned for years, but he remembered it well. It was where local street kids used to hide out, where rumors of shady dealings, stolen goods, and silent threats were passed around like ghost stories. He hadn't thought about Redstone in over a decade, but now it was right back in the middle of his life. He turned to the woman, voice low. You're saying this goes back that far? That it wasn't random? She nodded. I think someone knew we were in danger. Maybe even you. I think you saw more that night than you realized. And just then, his phone buzzed. An unknown number. No message. Just a location. Redstone. He didn't hesitate. He told the woman to wait at the cafe, promising to call the moment he figured out what this was. He had no clue what he'd find at Redstone after all these years, but something inside him knew. This was where the truth lived. When he arrived, the lot was silent. Rusted gates, faded graffiti, the same broken window he remembered from when he was a teen. But tonight, a light was on inside. Faint, flickering. He pushed the door open slowly, the air thick with dust and something colder. Memory. Hello, he called out. A shadow moved. Then a voice he hadn't heard in years answered from the dark. Didn't think you'd come back here. It was Marcus. An old face from his past, someone who ran with older guys in the neighborhood. Trouble always. And the night of the crash, he was there. You were the one at the car, he said, his voice sharp. Marcus didn't deny it. I wasn't supposed to be seen. You weren't supposed to be there. Everything poured out. That night, they were tailing the wrong car, a scare job gone wrong. When the crash happened, Marcus panicked. The girl lived, and someone pulled her out. Him. But the real twist came when Marcus stepped aside, revealing an old file. Newspaper clippings, photos, and a police report. You weren't just some kid walking home, Marcus said. You were supposed to be the distraction. He stepped back stunned. Everything he believed about that night had just shattered. He stood frozen, staring at the file Marcus had uncovered. His name was in it, his school ID photo, notes from someone tracking his movements, and even a map showing his usual route home. It hit him hard. That night wasn't just a random act of violence or a horrible accident. He had been part of someone else's plan, used without knowing it, pulled into a situation much bigger than he'd ever imagined. But he also realized something else. He had still made a choice that night. He could have run, just like Marcus had. But instead, he stepped toward the fire and saved that little girl. That part was real. That part mattered. He took the file, thanked Marcus with a quiet nod. No anger, just a strange sense of peace. Marcus looked older now, tired, like the weight of the past had finally caught up to him too. Back at the cafe, the woman was still there waiting. When he handed her the file, her eyes welled up. It wasn't just about answers, it was closure. For both of them. She stood, thanked him, and said her daughter would want to meet him one day, not just as the man who saved her life, but as someone who faced the truth when it was hardest. As he watched her leave, the early morning light began to fill the cafe. He poured himself a fresh cup of coffee, took a deep breath, and sat down, finally free from the weight of a night that no longer had to haunt him.